إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا وإمامنا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, and prayers and blessings be upon His last and final messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. All you who believe, have taqwa in Allah the way taqwa should be had, and are not except in a state of Islam. Dear brothers and sisters, inshallah I'll be talking mostly about one of the great messengers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to us. I'd like to touch on some aspects of his life, so inshallah we can take some lesson from it. Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, once stood and he was speaking to Bani Israel, the people of Israel, and he was asked, Man a'lam al-nas, who is the best or who has the best knowledge among people? So Musa alayhi salam answered, Ana a'lamu al-nas, I am, or I have the best of knowledge among people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not pleased with Musa's response, because Musa immediately attributed knowledge to himself. He did not say, for example, Allahu a'lam, Allah knows, or at least he did not have doubt that he was the one with the highest knowledge. He did not say that Allah has the most knowledge. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to teach Musa a lesson, and we'll come to this point at the end of my khutbah. But before we get into that, why was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upset particularly with Musa saying this? Because if someone would know better, it would be a messenger, a prophet, and Musa alayhi salam should know better when it comes to this particular answer. This is not to take anything away from our great prophet, or the great prophet and messenger Musa alayhi salam. Again, we'll come back to this point at the end. Musa alayhi salam and all other prophets were sent to suppress selfishness and tyranny. And what happens when we as people start seeing ourselves as I am, I can, I will, and all of these attributes to oneself, the scholars say that all of us has something in us, some selfishness in us, some sort of tyranny inside ourselves. And if we feed it with behavior that attributes things and power and knowledge to ourselves, that selfishness only increases. So what should be done is that we should suppress it. We should bring it down. So the prophets and the messengers became with one message or mission on their mind. Whenever they saw tyranny, to bring it down. wherever they saw selfishness to confront it. So Musa alayhi salam came to who? Mainly to Fir'aun, the Pharaoh. When the Pharaoh says, Ana Rabbukum al-A'la, that I am your most high Lord. So Musa came to confront Fir'aun and to change his ways when it comes to him claiming that he is the most powerful, he is the owner of the people, and so on and so on. So the scholars tell us this fight that we should have against this tyranny, this selfishness in us, can be achieved with taqwa, can be achieved with iman, can be achieved with submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of that is embodied in as-sujood lillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we come and we put ourselves down on the floor and we make sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're basically putting down our arrogance. We're putting down our selfishness. And when we say Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, we acknowledge that the Most High is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Most High is not me. The Most High is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The most powerful, the most majestic is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I am in my actions showing that I submit and I lower myself down in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This actually was also an act that we saw it very clearly with the magicians of Fir'aun. When Fir'aun had brought them in, and they actually believed that Fir'aun was their Lord, and Fir'aun was the Most High, and everything belonged to Fir'aun. When they saw the signs of Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأُلْقِيَ بِالسَّحَرَةِ سَاجِدِينَ. What did they do? To get rid of all of those ideas that they had in their mind, they understood that the best way to do it is to make sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةِ سَاجِدِينَ, that they immediately fell down on the floor, on the ground, in sujood. قالوا آمنا برب العالمين. They said, we believe in our Lord, the Lord of the worlds, Rabbi Musa wa Harun, the Lord of Musa and Harun. So the messengers, they were sent, as I said, to help us and to bring us to understand that al-dhullu lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, humility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is very important. So when Musa said, when Fir'aun said to Musa, to the people, Ana Rabbukum al-A'la, what was the response of Musa alayhi salam? He says to him, and this was the early stages, he was trying to advise him, هل لك إلى أن تزكى وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى. That will you just come down, will you open your mind, purify your soul and your mind, and I will guide you to your Lord, that you may actually fear Him, or you may achieve some taqwa in you. Musa alayhi salam was also sent not only to Fir'aun, he was sent to the people of Israel, Bani Israel. And those people also, they had some tyranny in them. So Fir'aun had it in him calling himself as Ana Rabbukum al-A'la, I am your most high Lord. And then the people of Israel at that time, they would say, نحن أبناء الله وأحباؤه, that we are the children of Allah and we are the most beloved to Him. So they thought that they were entitled for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were entitled to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because of who they are. Because that the prophets, many prophets were from among them, and many of them were descendants of the prophets. So they thought that by that, then they actually were entitled to being superior over other people. So Musa alayhi salam came to teach them that in order for you to be favored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it's your actions. It is what you believe in. It is what you do. Musa was sent to Fir'aun, who was the king, and he was claiming or bringing his arrogance, selfishness, and tyranny from his position as a king. To Haman, who was a minister, and he had this selfishness, this tyranny based on his position. To Qarun, who was rich, and he was seeing himself above other people, better than other people because of what he had. And to the people of Israel, who were seeing themselves better because of who they were, not of what they did and what they believed in. Musa alayhi salam, let's look at this humility, concept of humility in the life and in the person of Musa alayhi salam. Musa was a humble person even before he became a prophet, before he received the message. Even though Musa was raised in one of the most prestigious places, the house of Fir'aun. So he lived in it. He roamed the house. He ate in the house. He lived in the house. He was surrounded by all of this luxury. Even though he had all of that, he would go out and he would walk out on the street as just any typical simple person. He would go out to the markets and he would mingle among people. He never saw himself above others. And that is one of the signs and one of the attributes of prophethood. All prophets are made in that way by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Musa realized what it means to be an aggressor, what it means to be an oppressed. And he made this ahd, this covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says, قال رب بما أنعمت علي فلن أكون ظهيرا للمجرمين. Oh Allah, with everything that you have given me. He was acknowledging the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on him, and he says that I shall not be on the side of a criminal. I shall not be on the side of a tyrant. I shall not be on the side of an oppressor. I shall not be on the side of anyone who sees himself over other people. So it was actually very understandable and expected when Musa sees two men fighting each other. And he could see that one of them is wrong and one of them is right. And he could see that the person who is right needed help. It was very obvious that Musa would step in, would jump in, step in, and try to help the person who actually was transgressed against in that moment. That person happened to be from the people of Israel, but that was not the reason why Musa actually stood with that person. For him, it was right and wrong, and he needed to stand for justice. He needed to stand with the person who was being wronged against. And when we read Surah Al-Kahf, which actually, as you know, is a sunnah to read on a day like this, the day of Friday, and we see the story of Musa with Al-Khidr alayhi salam, when he was going around, and Musa was seeing Al-Khidr doing things that appeared to him to be wrong. And also, it was not surprising to see Musa, even though Musa had committed not to ask questions, he could not stop himself from asking, why did you do this? When he first tried to damage the ship, when he then killed the young man, when he then did something good in a place where the people were not good to them, Musa, this was part of him. He could not just bring himself to being silent when he sees something that he thought was not right. And of course, the story is bigger than that. What he was seeing being wrong, there was a reason for it. And hopefully, if we have time, we'll come back to this afterwards. When Musa alayhi salam, when he runs out of Egypt, and when he goes to the village of Madian, and he must have traveled for days in the desert by himself, with no friend, with no companion, with no helper, with no protector but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when he gets there, the first thing that he sees there was this scene of the well where people actually were helping themselves the well. And he was seeing everybody, he was sitting there and he was seeing everybody taken from the well. There must have been the strong and the weak. There must have been the rich and the poor, the young and the old, the man and the woman. And Musa is sitting. But what was he looking at? Imagine someone coming to a place of prosperity. Maybe New York City. Someone coming running out of a war zone. Someone has nothing and reaches there. And they're looking around. In some cases, what the person would be looking at, there's an opportunity for me here. They might or will likely see the things that can happen to them that will advance them. You know, this is a businessman, or this is someone that could hire me, or something like that. They may not even see the poor and the homeless in the place. But Musa was fixed on two women who could see that they were helpless. And when the whole scene was about to be finished, and he came to them, and he asked them, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمْ امْرَأَتَيْنِ تَذُودَانِ قَالَ مَا خَطْبُكُمَا. Then he said to them, what is the matter with you? قَالَتَا لَا نَسْقِي حَتَّى يُصْدِرَ الرِّعَاء وَأَبُونَا شَيْخٌ كَبِيرٌ. Then they tell him the story that we actually cannot get our water, that everyone is gone, because we're not as strong and we can't basically compete with everyone that was there. And those are the people that Musa actually stood with. He is coming to a place that he does not know. And the first thing he does is what we call community service, is what we call helping others, standing with others, standing with the weak and the poor, seeking them out from among the crowd. He could have easily mingled in, and he could have talked with somebody who seemed to have something that would be offered to him. He did not do that. And he decided to stay and to stand alongside these two women, young women that needed help. And that is the character of a prophet. That was the character of Musa alayhi salam. And then what happens? Musa actually gets the opportunity, after talking to these two young women, by working for their father for 10 years. For 10 years, so he can marry one of those daughters. But what was he doing? What was he working? He was a shepherd. That's what he was. So all of it comes back to humility. To humility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala later on opens the whole world for him. I mean, this was just the beginning of his story. Even though Musa left Egypt, being chased, not knowing where to go, full of fear for what could happen to him if he ever goes back, or if they ever catch up with him. But he had his trust and his reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for him. That's what he provided for him. So when Musa later on came and told the people that I am the most knowledgeable, and the actual scholars say that that was the first and the only time Musa said Ana, the word Ana, I am. That was the first time he attributed things to him, and subhanallah, maybe so Allah would teach him a lesson. And that's what happened afterwards when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to go with Al-Khidr, and then he started going with Al-Khidr and seeing all of these scenes unfold in front of him. And then he realized that he did not know the most. There were others who knew more than him. And then all of that tied in with the way Musa lived his life in terms of having humility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being here to fight selfishness, being here to stand with the weak, being here to only stand on the right side, never to stand with someone who is an aggressor, never to stand on the side, even supporting them by one word, on the side of those tyrants that roam our world nowadays. And unfortunately, they do have supporters, whether from us or not us, but they do have supporters. So Musa alayhi salam had given that covenant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would never do that. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. I say this and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgiveness for you, for me. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is close to us. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. I'm realizing that it is actually so difficult to talk about this topic in a khutbah because of the limit of the time. But I hope at least I introduced the topic. My topic is longer, but at least I introduced the topic. I just want to finish my khutbah with this one thing here. When Musa alayhi salam went with Al-Khidr, and he started seeing things happening, as I mentioned. When he first saw that ship that Al-Khidr was actually did something that seemed to be damaging it. This ship was actually being used to ferry people for free. So it was the poor and the needy who were using it. And then Al-Khidr would take a piece of wood from the bottom of the ship and he would take it out. Which looks like, this is going to sink the ship, but the ship did not sink. And then when Musa later on realized that was what was saved the ship. If that piece of wood was not taken out, then that king, the tyrant who was collecting the ships, would have taken this away from the poor, would have taken it away from those people who need it. And then so on with the other two stories. So when we reflect on this in my last couple of minutes in my khutbah here, when we reflect on this, and we see things happening around us, we see what is happening, for example, to the people of Syria. Yes, we should do what Musa did, where we stand with them, we support them. Not only them, everyone who is in need, everyone who is running away, everyone who needs refuge. And there is no point behind hiding away. When Musa alayhi salam reached Midian, when he reached that place, he actually was in the most need of blending in. For no one to see him, no one to know him, no one to understand, because he did not want the Pharaoh to know him. But he did not do that. He still did what he believed in. And we have a chance here, brothers and sisters. There is no hiding away. When you're doing something right, you're doing it right. And you need to do it. Because if you don't do it, who will do it? Maybe I think that you will do it. Maybe you think I will do it. And in the end, maybe no one will do it. So, when Musa was seeing things happening, it ended up not the way they are. So we see the people of Syria being dispersed. And we don't know why. Yes, we should help. Yes, we can help. But at the same time, we should not question why, oh Allah, you're doing this to them. Because we don't know what's going to happen in 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years. And I actually personally believe that the people of Syria, inshallah, if not all of them, some of them will bring their deen into Europe. The northern parts of Europe, which is a place that never actually saw the presence of Islam with its strength. So 20 years from now, Allah knows, maybe the children of these immigrants will actually bring prosperity when it comes to worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being having humility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then combining the beauty of our deen with the beauty of that land to bring prosperity to it. So that's just an explanation I have on my mind, but Allah knows best. Allah knows best. And as in the story of Musa and Khidr, things unfold, we don't know why, we don't know how. They look to us in a different way, but in fact, there is a different reason behind them. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد كما صليت وباركت على سيدنا ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. Oh Allah, we ask you to help us understand our deen better. We ask Allah subhanahu to bring humility in our lives. We ask you, Allah subhanahu, we ask you to bring down selfishness in ourselves. We ask Allah subhanahu to help us support justice everywhere. We ask Allah subhanahu to take us away and to help us stand against tyranny in every place that we are in, whether it is in the community, whether it is in the town we live in, whether it is the country that we live in or the world we live in. We ask Allah subhanahu to bring peace and prosperity and justice to all of those people who need it. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.